Okay, so I'm really happy to be able to talk to you all again this year on behalf of Juan, all the kids, and all the team. As Mayor Rawlings alluded to last week, we closed out an incredible year of extremes in 2016. In our own backyard, after the police shootings, we had the opportunity of seeing social emotional health personified in Mayor Rawlings and in Chief Brown. After the unspeakable, they managed their emotions, they brought people together, and they inspired in all of us a reaction and a response that was open-hearted and clear-headed. To put it mildly, we didn't always see that on the national stage in 2016. Without question, we live in divided times that could easily escalate or keep feeding an unproductive gridlock. So understanding that that's the context in which we exist, I come to you today filled with gratitude. Because you have put a very public, very trusted, and very needed stake in the ground that social emotional health matters. We are so proud to work for you because you have set and supported remarkable standards. You have created and protected a thriving culture, a culture which, by the way, very often gets referred to by our peers in the community as a unicorn, like a totally manly unicorn. To be clear about that. We also heard this unicorn feedback this year from the American Psychological Association when Garrica led us through a reaccreditation process, and we received the highest vote of confidence with a 7-year renewal. And similar accolades came our way when we were featured as one of the 100 best places to work for women in Fortune magazine, and Maria just found out last week that we're in the running to be one of the 100 best places to work in Texas. So I come to you today filled with gratitude and filled with hope. Hope is one of those concepts that can kind of get written off as fluffy or soft, but it's actually a critical component to well-being. It's that belief that I can get there from here, that the future might be better than the present, and that I have some capacity in making that so. It's hopelessness that keeps those cycles of poverty and trauma alive. Because without hope and the belief that things could be better, that motivation and energy that it takes to break a cycle just isn't there. That applies to families and it applies to systems. I want to share a few things that happen up and down our halls and in our community-based work that better illustrate why hope lives here. Tina shared this stat with you last week in her Momentous Minute. It's about DISD's Marsh Middle School. Martha Buhanda, as their new principal, moved Marsh from 227 out-of-school suspensions to 48 in just 1 year, a 78% reduction. She's a total force, and she's a great example of what we're capable of when we're paired with a committed and bought-in leader. We worked with her and her team at Gooch Elementary, and when she moved to Marsh, we were one of her first calls. You teach people how to treat you. And Martha had to establish this new norm of respecting the adults. But not once did she shame or berate him. She set a firm limit, and then she listened. She saw him as a person, and she saw the behavior as a symptom, not a reflection of his potential. And she began to build a relationship. Her leadership and our partnership is reinstilling hope for the kids and the staff, and I can guarantee you that hope will come before any academic achievement. Another example that hope lives here is what goes on in our Parent Center under Monica and Anita's leadership. I could describe it, but instead I'll share an excerpt from a letter that parents themselves wrote for Anita. They said, "When we were little, our moms would gather with aunts and neighbors while they took care of chores. They would work and talk about what was happening in their lives and give each other advice. In today's world, there's terrible isolation. So many people are completely alone, even though they are surrounded by many. The Parent Center has become the place we can come together and listen to each other. This is our community. Sometimes we're the students and sometimes the teachers. You have helped us share our talents and feel good about ourselves. And when we are strong, we can help our kids be strong." The letter is signed by 23 of our moms, dads, and grandparents. When we do this work right, it's not just the people with fancy credentials and degrees that create change and healing. Very often, it's the families that show up for each other, and that's the biggest difference maker. And that's not surprising, because you've heard us say many times that everything we do is about relationships. And there are now 157 reading buddies that work with Paige, most of whom are in this room. The reading is important, but the real reason we do this program is because that sustained, predictable attention and acceptance from an adult is a protective factor, and it literally changes kids' brains. The reading buddy relationship is special. I'm not going to lie to you, I've seen more than one of you in the fetal position at the 5th grade graduation. It's sweet, it's very manly. Quincy says it better than I could. At 92 years young and in his 53rd year in the club, he reads with Camilla every week, and he recently wrote about why he thinks it's important. Quincy says, "Every child growing up needs at least one buddy to believe in them. By contributing to their learning and building their confidence, we are helping kids know they are in a safe place and that we believe in them. At this important stage in their lives, we may be the only grown-ups that they know and share worthwhile times with beyond their teachers and families. Because we are reading buddies, kids know, I've got a good friend that I see Thursdays when we read and discuss good books. It's fun, and I know that if something were wrong, he would care. He wants me to succeed." Most of the children that you as a reading buddy spend about 1,000 hours with over the years are part of that 38% of children living in poverty stat that Mayor Rawlings talked about. As he highlighted, we had the highest poverty rate for children of any city in the US with over 1 million residents. Fresh new data, we're now tied with Houston with 35%, right behind Philadelphia. So moving in the right direction, still not acceptable. I've heard these stats now so many times, and every time I hear it, I just can't reconcile it with the Dallas that I know and love. You see 248 little faces at our school every week, and hundreds more come to therapy here every week. We think of these kids as our kids. But we cannot forget that they represent over 100,000 kids in Dallas in similar circumstances that may not have a Quincy or a caring therapist or teacher or a group of red pants in their corner. And the truth is, those kids are our kids too, which is precisely why we are devoted not just to the kids in our care, but to kids that we will never meet. Because the challenges that Dallas and the country are facing are just too great to be solved by direct services alone. We have sophisticated research built into several of our projects. We survey training participants about what they learned and what they're changing in their work with kids. And we get an email about every week about the ripple effect of our work. I got this one yesterday from a school counselor who is 35 years into her career and works at a high school in Plano. She says, "Dear Michelle, I'm already getting my names together for Changing the Odds in September, as well as helping some students plan a mental health awareness program. Developing, even addressing, social and emotional learning at a public high school in Texas seemed impossible until the many administrators were exposed to the concepts and speakers through Momentous Institute. My principal, who has traditionally shied away from anything involving emotions, is now completely on board with anything that will reach the whole individual. This would never have happened without the science behind every single concept and initiative presented by Momentous. I am more hopeful about education and emotional health than any time in my career, and I wanted you to know." Our Fort Worth work is a complex example of what we're doing to expand our reach. We're in a 3-year project, and this is year 3, and our team works with pre-K and kinder teachers in 4 of their highest need schools, and then we do research in 4 schools in Fort Worth that act as a control group. Through this project, we've developed a Settle Your Glitter curriculum, and it's now being tested in a school in Georgia. And next year, it will be used in 93 pre-K classrooms in Plano. Take a look at this video clip of Rhonda describing how and why our educators and our therapists created the curriculum.
The reason we developed the Settle Your Glitter curriculum was because we realized after talking to a lot of teachers that while almost all early childhood educators understood the importance of social emotional health for their students, a lot of them just didn't have the background or the knowledge or even the language to teach those lessons to their students. So we found that there was a sort of a disconnect between intention and implementation. Settle Your Glitter curriculum really bridges that gap, and it gives teachers the tools in order to teach their kids social emotional health skills.
So friends, we're going to talk about personal space today, okay? And I want to show you something.
So there are many unique aspects to the Settle Your Glitter curriculum, and probably the most important one is the addition of a trauma lens that was given by a group of mental health professionals. So while the units were written by experienced early childhood teachers, it was then reviewed by mental health professionals who were able to identify areas where a child who has suffered trauma might struggle. So this actually gives teachers a really unique perspective and an insight that they wouldn't have based on their own education and experience.
You did do a great job. Kiss your brains. Good work.
One way or another, ranging from year-long internships to attending a conference, we offered training in 2016 to over 10,000 people. These partnerships are allowing us to figure out how to translate what we're doing in our system, where we control most of the factors, into larger, more complex systems where we control none of the factors. If you do conservative math, those 10,000 will work with over 250,000 in 1 year's time. So we're driven to help far more kids than we could ever serve directly. But the reason we have credibility and anything to offer is because of our deep and abiding commitment to the families at our school and in our therapy centers. We continue to work with over 6,000 people directly each year. Maruji, one of our psychologists, recently shared a story with me of a mom who had lost hope. Maruji knew she had a limited window of opportunity to move this mom toward hope. She told her, "Give us a month. Take your daughter home. Keep coming. Things will shift. I can't make any promises except we will walk this road with you. You are not alone, and we will walk this road with you." So it's been a little over a month, and they've been faithfully participating in the Huddle Up program. There's still a long road ahead, but as promised, Mom doesn't feel alone anymore, which fuels her hope, which fuels her capacity to do this hard work. So I come to you today filled with gratitude, filled with hope, and filled with an enormous sense of responsibility. Mayor Rawlings last week said that this room can change Dallas. And he was right. You already have, and you do every day. And I can't think of another group I could say this to, but I can say it to you unflinchingly. It is within your power that Dallas become as good a place for kids as it is for business. So it's my prayer as we start the strategic planning process that we go in fully grounded in our culture and our values and our history, and equally driven to deliver in ways that today we cannot fully imagine for the kids and the families and the partners who are counting on us. May we be thoughtful, may we be wise, and may we be brave as you have been for 97 years. Thank you.